Might the attacks on international shipping in the Red Sea be part of an effort to turn the Israel-Hamas conflict into a wider conflagration? The Houthi rebels attacking the ships from Yemen are backed by Iran, and the failure of the US to use its might to stop the attacks feels like a resistance based on some fear, possibly, of escalation. Let's talk to Dr. Elisabeth Kendall, who's on the line, the mistress of Girton College, Cambridge, and an expert on that region. Dr. Kendall, good morning.
Good morning.
Why is America not acting with greater force, do you think?
Well, America's in a dilemma. It needs to find a way of removing the threat to global trade without actually getting embroiled in another Middle East conflict beyond the contained region at the moment of Israel. So it really only has three courses of action. It can beef up its international maritime force in the Red Sea. It's doing that. And it could also undertake hybrid warfare measures. These would be deniable, indirect kinds of measures. And maybe it could also undertake limited and highly targeted strikes against Houthi military installations and launch sites. But there's very little room for maneuver. And diplomacy, maybe they're relying on it, but there's very little leverage over the Houthis. That's the problem. They could use regional allies. Saudi is currently negotiating with the Houthis over its own exit from the Yemen war. But I think Oman is probably its best route, and Oman currently is attempting to mediate.
But we were told at the beginning of Israel's action in Gaza that it was pretty clear that Iran did not want to get involved. In other words, they weren't encouraging Hezbollah to get involved from the north, and they didn't have any appetite for getting involved themselves. I mean, if that is the case, why is it proving so difficult for the United States to deal with their allies in Yemen?
It's because Iran's involvement is carefully calibrated, and the Houthis' involvement now in the Red Sea is finding that sweet spot. It's trying to cause maximum disruption without actually going all in on measures that would create a reaction from the United States that could end up being existential for the Houthis. The Houthis and Iran also don't want to provoke direct war. After all, let's think about it. The Houthis are on the cusp of a deal for a Saudi exit from the Yemen war. This would leave them as one of the officially recognized parties in anticipated domestic peace talks and perhaps part of a power-sharing government in Yemen. Why would they risk that now?
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? Perhaps America is in a stronger position than it's admitting to itself.
But the Houthis have calibrated their attacks. Their measures are designed to escalate incrementally. First, they had verbal warnings. Then they turned to launching missiles and drones towards Eilat. Then they pivoted to Israel-linked shipping. And now they're going towards any shipping, supposedly headed towards Israel, but indeed much broader. I think they're just trying to test the red lines of America. But as you say, the real problem now, the real risk now is that they could miscalculate. They could overextend themselves, and that could then provoke strikes back. But I don't think either side really wants that.
Dr. Elisabeth Kendall, mistress of Girton College, Cambridge. Thank you.